Welcome to Wesley's Food Day. Today I'll be making a very simple yet delicious fish biryani. And for this dish I will be using swordfish. And to start us off, I will be making my allspice. So let's start cooking. As you can see, I've already started to heat my pan. I'm just going to increase the heat a bit. And to this, I will be adding some cumin seeds, 2 or 3 cinnamon sticks, a teaspoon of fennel, 2 or 3 bay leaf, 2 star anise, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of whole coriander seeds, black cardamom, 3 green cardamom pods, and 3 to 4 cloves. So I will be dry roasting this in my pan. Now the reason we dry roast the whole spice so that it can release its flavor. And if you add this directly to your biryani, which is no problem, it's just that it can be a speed bump whilst eating, and you don't want to bite into it. You want the flavor of it. So what I do is just I gently roast this for a few minutes, and then I'll grind. One thing you shouldn't do is try to grind this without roasting, because the heat is what releases that aroma and the flavor. So you need to roast it first. You can't just grind it. And there you have it. I just remove this from here. Just put this aside. And there you have it. Your first step of grinding your spice is complete. So the spice is ground. And we just leave this aside to be used in a bit. So just leave this aside. Right. So the next step is to lightly fry our fish. And the reason for frying the fish, so when you do put it in the curry and then you add your rice and you put it to steam, the fish won't disintegrate. So for this I'm going to heat just 3 teaspoons of oil, because you don't want the fish to catch on the side. So I'm going to place my fish in. Now, as I told you already, I'm using swordfish. Now swordfish is a very tasty fish, and we need to just firm it a bit, hence the frying. But I prefer swordfish because it just has the center bone, and it makes the whole eating process so much easier. So I've just placed my fish in there. So I'm just going to take some corn flour and I'm just going to sprinkle it. Now we're going to do this twice. This is for the first side. Okay. And to this I will just be adding some spices, just some turmeric, just some very lightly spiced, because we will be adding this to our curry as well. Some coriander and cumin, some Kashmiri chili powder, and as you can hear it begin to sizzle, and just some normal red curry powder. And this is optional. You can choose not to do this, but I'm just going to put a pinch of salt. Now you don't need to put salt twice, just a single time would be sufficient. And we're just going to let that to fry for about 5 minutes on either side, just so it creates this nice crisp. As you can see, it's deliciously frying, but you may want to drop your heat so it doesn't catch. Right, so now we're going to start with our prep for our curry, and we start with by frying my onions. Now the onions have been sweating down a bit, and to this I am going to add my tomatoes. Now I'm cooking this on medium heat. I'll drop the heat down a bit. So I've sweated down 2 chopped onions and 3 chopped tomatoes. I used vine tomatoes for this because it gives you a nice sauce. We're adding my chilies. We're using red and green. Now these are not the hot type of chili, but if you still have a problem, you can remove the seeds. 2 teaspoons of ginger and garlic. And curry leaves. Curry leaves gives it a lovely aroma as well while cooking. And I just want to mix all of this up. Now I haven't put in my spices or my plain yogurt as yet, which I will do in a bit. So we just want this to mix. Not necessarily that the tomatoes need to sweat down almost immediately. I can add the spices. I will add the spices first. So and you can smell the curry leaves. Now to this I'll be adding my turmeric, coriander and cumin powder, Kashmiri chili powder and red curry powder, and these are 2 teaspoons each, and this is a teaspoon. Now remember, we've already put spices in our fish whilst frying, so the choice is yours if you would prefer to add more. And to this I'll be adding rock salt. Now this is a preference as well. You could add normal fine salt or table salt if you would prefer. So I'm just going to give this a nice mix, and I'm going to cook this for at least 5 minutes, and then I'm going to add my yogurt. Now the purpose of the yogurt is to just neutralize the heat of our spices, but it also gives us a nice a gravy for the biryani, so it doesn't dry out. So I add that, and before I close it, I'm going to put our ground spice. I'm only putting 2 teaspoons of this because you don't want it overpowering. So mix it further. I can smell the masala. Now when you're cooking, just make sure that there's nothing in the edge, because that remains raw and then it mixes and then it gives you that raw taste. We don't want that. So we'll just leave this to cook. That. And to this, I will be adding just half a lemon, just the juice of half a lemon. Lemon and fish is like a match made in heaven. And just going to add some fresh thyme. Now the curry for our biryani is cooked, and as you can see, just slightly the oil is beginning to surface, so you know any moisture in terms of water has been evaporated. And I'm going to layer the biryani. So for that, I am going to remove some of the curry. Okay, just going to remove some of the curry pot. So I'm just going to space this out. Now, because it's layered, so obviously you can add as many layers as you prefer, but I'll just go with 2 layers. We'll see how it goes. And to each layer, so we're going to have our curry. We're going to put some roasted potatoes. This is just potatoes just with some salt and some turmeric, and I deep fried them, or you could roast them in the oven. And to this, going to add some mint. And now our fish. Now you need to be a bit gentle with this, because I'm making 2 layers. So I'm going to put 3 fish per layer. And also I will be adding some boiled eggs. Now this is optional, you don't have to do this, but I will be. So just boiled eggs. Now for a good tip on how to boil your eggs and for the shell to be removed easily, when you are boiling your eggs, I just boil with a teaspoon of vinegar. Now the important part to biryani is that it is a rice dish, and I have a boiled rice here. Now this is basmati rice, and you can use any rice that you prefer. It's just that you need to make sure that it's cooked at least 50%. You don't want it to cook completely, because it will become like a mash in your biryani, which we don't want. So I boiled this with some salt and turmeric as well, and I added a few bay leaves just for the flavor. And it's a good tip to boil your rice in advance, so it really dries out, so there's no water at all. So just adding this in, and I'm making quite a mess, but that's okay, we can clean up afterwards. So I just want to put some rice in the sides. Just some rice in the sides. And now I'm going to add more of my curry. Oh, it looks like I might end up with 3 layers, but that's okay. And my roast potatoes again. You just repeat the process. Boiled eggs. I mean, you can. I'm slicing them in half just so that you know, it takes up the flavor inside as well. But it's up to you how you would prefer to do this. And in this layer, I will be adding some boiled masoor dal or lentils. Now this also is optional, but this is quite characteristic of a Durban biryani. Going to add that in there, and as I say, it's optional, and you can use the brown masoor, or in this case the green masoor. Not much of a green, when you boil it, and then you repeat the process with the mint leaves, and you add your fish. And I think I'm just going to add the remainder of my curry here, because I don't want to add another layer, because this is how much my pot can actually take. Oh, this is smelling so divine. And I'm going to top it off with rice again. Now you want it to be a bit more even, so I'm going to fill the rice in the sides first. Now you get all types of biryani, and the most common is lamb or mutton. You get chicken, you get a prawns, and the ever popular veg biryani. And in South Africa, any function, be it a wedding, a birthday, even a wake, you know, you'll have some serving of a biryani, and it's quite an art form. It's quite an essential part of our celebrations, and it's quite a regular Saturday food at home. So I'm just going to make sure that my rice is sufficient. I don't have to put all the rice, I will just keep some rice. So there we have it. Okay, and now I'm just going to use my spoon. Just going to make a few indents here, because I just want to add some food coloring. And I don't want it to overpower my rice, because food coloring can take over. Okay. And I'm just going to top it off with my remainder of the fish, and I purposely left this out because I just wanted for it to be a little bit more aesthetic. And then now I'm going to add just a few teaspoons of butter. It's all about the steaming now. You know, you don't want your biryani to dry out, so just about 4 teaspoons of butter will be sufficient. Right. And the last ingredient, which is also optional but is absolutely wonderful to have, and that is some fried onions. Now my onions is quite chunky, and obviously you can have your onions really crispy if you prefer, so you cut it much finer, but it's fine if it's like this. The remainder of the lentils. And there you have it. Now this is ready for the oven, and I am going to put in the oven for about 30 minutes at 170 degrees, between 160 and 170, because we just want it to steam. And the main reason for steaming it is so that all the flavors combine, the spices combine, but also remember the rice has been half cooked, so this gives the opportunity for the rice to really cook in and infuse with the gravy and the fish. And so see me in half an hour.